Hello, possums. Lena here, your in-house sociologist from Australia. And I just realised today, the 17th, for most of you, is 7 years since I started this channel. Can you believe it? We've held each other's hand through the horror and misery of the Yeti years, and we're still here. So, a special shout out to those intrepid viewers who have been with me from the beginning, those who've come on board over the years, blessings, and any new people, welcome to this channel. So, here we go. Now, the first thing has to be her name, I think, is Brianna Boston. Yeah, Brianna Boston, arrested in Florida for using the words delay, deny, and defend. So much for, you know, land of the free, home of the brave, First Amendment stuff. No, and she's not young. So we have to have a look at that. You know, just terrible. Because on top of everything, Luigi Mangione, oops, no one is condoning what he chose to do. No one. Okay. However, people do understand what he was protesting, and it shows how scared they are, really. But this has been the mantra of the insurance industry everywhere forever. Delay, deny, defend. So let's have a look for Brianna Boston. What's going to happen with that case? Have a look here. A very rare reversal. Oh no, my cards are upside down. Oh my God. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Huh. Love it. All right, the first card, which signifies the vibe over the spread, right, in relation to the question, is the Wheel of Fortune. Karma, fate, and destiny. It also governs the passing of time, but it is about things coming home to roost. And it's time to take this on. All right. Then came the death card. Now, all of you would have heard from any of the readers in public on YouTube and so forth. We stress over and over the death card rarely represents literal death. It's about the end of a cycle. This is about it's time to look at how everything's done. Hello. And the end of the cycle. I think momentum will happen quite quickly. I'm hoping that's what this means. This Eight of Wands means things happening all at the same time. So I think more stories are going to emerge. And here we have the Lovers card, which in this case isn't about romance, it's about people joining together. So if you put that story together, I think she will be supported in this. And I think it will have a widespread impact. It's like with this, it's her fate and destiny in a way to be this trigger point. No one is supporting what he decided to do, but we can understand where it's coming from, you know, and other people will get it. So I'm hoping she'll have good support from the public, and I'm hoping, and there are decent lawyers in Florida, hopefully she'll get a good pro bono lawyer or whatever she needs legally for support, because it's outrageous. It's simply outrageous. Now, talking of healthcare, I just want to take a moment here. I digress. Let me put the cards back while I'm digressing. several things are happening at the same time on top of what is arguably a very unjust, well, it's not even a healthcare system in the US, is it? Let's be frank. It's an insurance industry. It's not actually front of house talking about healthcare. Now, I'm a health sociologist, so indulge me for a couple of minutes. What does this mean? There's a new woman who the Yeti wants to have as the Surgeon General. She used to be a real doctor, and now she's gone to the far side, right? Then we have RFK Jr. Now, vaccines. I am not someone who automatically trusts everything Western medicine does. You know, I've spent a lot of years exploring alternatives to things. I choose myself not to have the flu vaccine, even though I'm of the age I'm supposed to have it automatically. I'm choosing not to. I just want to say that because the other vaccines that we're talking about are particularly serious in relation to children. And the measles vaccine, for example, when I was a kid, if a kid had measles in the neighbourhood, you'd be sent to play with them. Kids got the measles. It wasn't the end of the world. But all these illnesses, whether it's rubella, you know, which is whooping cough, measles, and I'll get to polio in a moment, they have far more impact and a more lethal impact in poorer communities, in impoverished, badly serviced communities. And there's many reasons for that. So, for example, the diet tends not to be as good. You're more likely to have household overcrowding. So you can end up with 6 or 8 or 10 people in the household with one of these diseases very quickly. Then on top of that, you don't have access to the first level of healthcare, what we call primary healthcare, which is looking after people before they get very ill, and that first encounter with the GP, the doctor. Because of the healthcare system or because they live in neighbourhoods that really don't have good access to primary healthcare. Now, on top of that, RFK went to Samoa, and those of you who know my backstory know I've spent nearly 40 years living in the Polynesian community here in Australia. I travel to the islands. I travel to New Zealand, that has the biggest Polynesian population in the world, quite a bit. I know these communities. He spoke against vaccines in Samoa. He influenced enough people who didn't vaccinate, and there were 80 deaths. In independent Samoa, it's a tiny population, that was massive. And this is the problem when people were railing against Bill and Melinda Gates and making up all these huge stories. These are the diseases that kill the majority of children under 5 in Africa, in Latin America, and the poorer parts of Asia. Vaccines save lives for people who are impoverished and have poor literacy in relation to health, etc. Now, one more story, and then I'll move on. Polio. I lived more or less at the beach in the state I grew up in, and in those days there wasn't a polio vaccine. So hundreds of kids from all the surrounding areas who had polio were sent to my little town because it was considered that the ocean would be good for them. So I grew up right beside 150, 200 kids at any point of my childhood because they die early if they've got polio, right? So they were different kids. And I remember them with the braces, these terrible braces on their legs and stuff. There were those who couldn't even breathe unassisted and were in these dreadful machines known as iron lungs. Others would be wheeled in wheelchairs. These were young children, and I saw it. It's deep in my soul. So I think it's irresponsible and cruel to have this man at the helm. Right, we'll move on. Okay, now let me know what you think in the comments. It's fine if you're middle class and you can afford good food and you've read the medical research and you make a decision, but it's not fair to inflict on other people who don't have those options. Now, I've avoided the drone issue, haven't spoken about it, haven't read on it on this channel. It was only 2 days ago. I was on Becca Canay's channel, House of Lenormand, along with Jen Lin, and we did read on it. But I'd like to go a bit further here. Okay, let's look at the situation we're in. Now, I'm not a UFO enthusiast by any means, but these are literally unidentified flying objects. So let's leave the common parlance of UFOs out of it and just look at it for what they are. And yet, the government doesn't appear worried, stressed, anxious, militant, not having a reaction. Even the Yeti, only came out and said, we'll shoot them down or something because he thought it would be something to say after lunch. The mystery to me is Elon Musk has been completely silent on this. He's Mr. Let's take over the skies guy. So if you think the government this isn't a rural backwater, this is New Jersey, for God's sake. What, you know. So I think we can safely assume they're not enemy craft or something would have been done. So what is it about? And what got my attention was someone sent a link to a Wall Street Journal article with an interview with the muskrat from months ago. And he said, oh, warfare's got to change from this big, expensive equipment. We can expect to see swarms of drones. I'm just saying. He said this months ago, swarms of drones. So what's happening? Is there an Elon connection, or am I making a connection that isn't there? What is happening? The drone thing. The drone thing. Well, it is secret. Why are my cards mixed up? Very curious. All right. Now, I think these drones, okay, before I start, let's just say we can assume that all the drones are not necessarily one thing. It might be a bunch of 16-year-olds putting up the drones as well. I think there's a cross section of things, but the drones and their behavior, how far can they fly, what is being appraised. This is the card of evaluation. It is secret, and they're obviously happy treating us all as idiots and not giving an explanation. They could have come up with a cover story, but they haven't. It is secret military stuff. The card of temperance, moderation here, next door to the Three of Swords. Here's what I think this means. Now, in personal readings, this can often talk about previous heartbreaks and so forth. But we've got to remember another interpretation of the Three of Swords when it's a bigger topic like this. Swords represent communication. Swords represent air, communication in air. And with this image, it's miscommunication in the air or about the air. So I think this was a secret project now people are filling the space with what they think it is. They have to come up with some sort of balanced explanation soon to keep people calm. Wheel of Fortune. I think this is talking about, I just spoke about it before, but talking about it in terms of warfare is changing. And I wasn't even comfortable, I'll be honest with you, viewers, under Obama's watch. The increase in the use of drones in a military capacity shot up through the roof. We tend to look at it quickly and go, well, better that it's a drone than a fighter pilot being shot down or something. It's sort of easy to go, oh, well, and move on. But drones, military drones, not the ones over New Jersey, hopefully, actually are not that accurate. And many civilians were killed by drones. And that's what this evaluation is about. And it's time that we knew. Okadoka. All right. Now, um, just let me look at these notes here. Oh, yeah. Right. Canada. Canada is collectively not happy. There's rumours Trudeau may resign. So here's the thing. Personally, I can remember the last 50 years. I'm so old, I can remember 50 years of history. There's always been a Trudeau heading Canada. Regular viewers will know I hate nepotism and dynasties, as you call them. Anyway, these tended to be much more reasonable than the House of Assad or MBS or something, sure. Very urbane, sophisticated family members. But it's all about timing. And it's like Christopher Wray resigning before he got pushed. Do you really leave it at, I don't know. Is it a good or a bad thing? Who would replace Trudeau? Canadian viewers, let me know. But I'm just going to have a little look here at Canada and national identity and just general. I read on the tariffs last video, so let's have a look. Let's have a look here for Canada. Let's have a look. Okay. Well, I think there is a plan in place. Mhm. Four of Wands, often the wedding card. In this context, in a national context, I think this is people coming together because of the ritual insults from the Yeti to Canada. It's probably the first time a lot of Americans, and certainly for me and other people, to know how much trade was done. Like I knew about the NAFTA before the Yeti took it apart, etc., etc. But the sheer volume of trade. So the insults are bringing Canadians together. I think this represents, well, it does represent government, law and order, etc., and the pending election. Here's the strategy I was talking about. Now, with this strategy, Canadians, please let me know if he did resign, is he likely to be replaced by a woman? Is that a possibility? Um, if so, it's probably her. If not, this could well be Trudeau's mother. It's certainly a huge influence on his life And I don't know how close he is to his wife anymore or whether they've got over all that, but sort of more a maternal energy here. She was a number, wasn't she? Rumors were had an affair with Castro. Purely gossip, purely gossip, but powerful in her own right. And the sun shining on this. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time. We'll keep our eye on that. So, a name you might not be familiar with. Any UK viewers will know exactly who I mean. Nigel Farage, UK. Now, Nigel Farage was the man who rammed through Brexit. And so it was all about the UK. We don't need Europe. We don't need the rest of the world. Does this sound familiar? We can do it on our own. We're cutting off. We'll be stronger. We'll be so much stronger if we break away from the EU. Now, unlike Steve Bannon or someone who was pushing the MAGA agenda, Nigel Farage has a very clownish face. In fact, I'm going to change cards for him. He doesn't look like a monster. You know, he looks like a guy who keeps poodles or something, you know. And he was very clever. He convinced people, if we leave the EU, we're going to have hundreds of millions of pounds sterling every week to put into our healthcare system. Everything is going to be so much better, right? Well, 5 years post-Brexit, none of that has come to pass. Farmers who voted for exit, all the trade deals have fallen over. The fishermen who voted for Brexit are struggling with fishing quotas because they're not protected anymore from the EU stuff, and so on. Right. But he's back. He's back. And the party's called UKIP, which is code for fascist delinquents. And they're running second. Now, the point of all this is the art form of these very wealthy guys. He's massively wealthy in his own right. They managed to convince the working class that they're allies, right? Just like the Eddie did. I'm just your average billionaire who loves the uneducated working class. Yeah, right. Nigel Farage did the same thing. Right? And although it was bad in the UK, and every 10 years we vote in Conservatives in Australia too, and the working class will do that, but it's not as sinister as in the US because you guys do not have universal health care. So we can FARFO and everyone can still have every medical thing they need done for free, right? That is a huge difference between our countries. Right? So let's have a look. He was at Mar-a-Lago. There was word there could have been, allegedly, $100 million donation to the Yeti. Right. So I digress yet again. After this election, which was very close, very, very, very close. I mean, at least half of America's voting population, you guys, I love you guys, thinking, decent, compassionate Americans. I feel your pain. Because the working class, like, please take away my already inadequate healthcare, please. Please give me shitty schools, I just, please make sure my wage doesn't go up because I support billionaires. I mean, now again, in Australia, our minimum wage, which isn't adequate either, but it's $24.10 an hour for a full-time worker, the minimum wage. That's Australian dollars. It translates to about $20 American. Now, with the cost of rents and housing and stuff, that isn't enough. So how you guys do it? I don't know. So what I'm reading on, what am I reading on? Um, I started with Nigel Farage. Let's have a look at the global sort of splashback, if you like. Should the Yeti be inaugurated? We're all still holding out a candle. The vote was ultra close, right? But it's not till January 6th, and the vote gets certified that it can be examined, forensically examined. It's the weirdest system. So I'm looking here. Global impact. Will this lead to a new wave of support for this perverted alliance between billionaires and the working class? Let's have a look. Will people keep getting sucked in by this, or will they see the light at some point? Will they see the light? Well, we shouldn't be surprised here that these cards are about the messaging. Like we all now inhabit our news silos. It's not a uniquely American phenomenon or anywhere. Excuse me. Which is why it's so important for Dems and for Labor here, Labor UK, etc., to be in the social media space. Okay, so will it continue this weird alliance or not? So at the moment, with this is the Two of Wands here in this very strange deck. For now, yes, it will continue. Why? The Magician. People want simple solutions to complicated issues. And so if you have a simple solution, you get people's ear, right? In other words, it's much easier to demonize immigrants. Even here in Australia, every election, too many immigrants, 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 immigrants. We need immigration, but that's a more complicated conversation. So it's much easier to demonize. So the Magician at work here, which is the Yeti, still has that sort of hold on his people for now. So Page of Wands and Page of Pentacles here, pages are messengers. And you could say it's like this. The Yeti's on stilts going through the swamp that he created, keeping his little Yeti toenails just above the muck. But all of this feels really temporary because it's all too. Page of Pentacles, this is messages about money. This is that narrative. We have it in all Western countries. Workers should support big business because if big business is healthy, they create jobs. Okay, again, really simple. Well, no, they don't. They just exploit more workers and maximize their profits. Okay, but the message, even blue collar workers, look at this giant spanner. But this could also end up as a spanner in the works. And I love this. I can't give you a time frame whether this will be in 6 months or a year or whatever. But I think they are going to start moving away from him. This is moving away to a safer place. I think this will happen. And, when they can't afford their mother's insulin and when they lose their job that he promised them would be big, big news, etc., when the wall isn't built. So I don't think, I don't think his presidency will let's hope it doesn't even come to that. Look, another way, this is not a well man we're looking at here, for sure. But that raises the question of JD Vance. Where is JD? Oh my God, I'll go back to my regular cards. Where is he? Because now the muskrat appears to have bought the presidency, had a couple of hundred lazy mil, went cheap, really, didn't it? Okay, so by default, but technically, JD is vice president. Where is JD? What is this about? Oh God, what's happening with my cards today? What's under here? Oh, the Empress. Okay. Now, JD gets the Four of Pentacles. This is playing your cards close to your chest. I think, well, there's no room for him at Mar-a-Lago, right? He's literally been tipped out by the muskrat, right? Obviously, that's what this is about. The Yeti never really liked him anyway. So he's regrouping. He's got to work out what role does he have. He's working on allies behind the scenes. He's going to come forward with his own sort of micro agenda, which will continue to be this right-wing stuff. Why? Because here's the Six of Cups. This is the 50s, 60s fantasy of everything was better then. You know, it's when we were all watching Leave It to Beaver and Little House on the Prairie and this glamorized, mythical sort of depiction of American families. Remember when mom and dad had separate little single beds because you couldn't show a double bed? But the message was, you know, it all sort of, this nostalgic rubbish, and people buy it. They still buy it, you know. Yeah. All right, guys. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll be back before you know it. So take care. Bye for now.